I'm Dr. John Scharfenberg from Loma Linda University, where I've been a faculty member there for over 58 years. And I'm excited about nutrition. That's my field of expertise. I've been a professor there for a long time, and I've been teaching lots of students. Today, I want to talk about saturated fats. This is something new that people don't know much about. But this has to do with heart disease. We want to lower our risk of heart disease, and we can do it. Heart disease still is the leading cause of death here in this country. We can do something about it. And diet is one of the major ways. Now, exercise, of course, is a way, and stop smoking and all that sort of thing, which we mentioned with primordial prevention. But with the diet, it's saturated fat that we have to cut down. The American Heart Association has made recommendations regarding that. They say not more than 6% of our calories should come from saturated fat. Now, what does saturated fat mean? It means there's no double bonds in the molecule. You have these long chains of carbons, but no double bonds, saturated fat. That is the kind of fat that raises your blood cholesterol level. And that's what we don't want. Okay? So the Heart Association has made this recommendation: no more than 6% of the calories should come from saturated fat. But most Americans are getting probably close to 14% of their calories from saturated fat. 6% is quite low. So on a 2,000 calorie diet, that means no more than 13 grams of saturated fat should be in that diet. Now, every fat you eat, even though it's a good fat, has some saturated fat. All fats have these saturated fats, monounsaturated, polyunsaturated fats. But if the majority is one type, then they say that's what kind of fat it is. So when we're talking about a fat that has saturated fat, we know it has the other kind too. So we just have to use those that have very little saturated fat. Now, I have here a sheet in front of me. Shows the comparison of dietary fats from canola oil, safflower oil, flaxseed oil, all these different oils, and goes clear down to the bottom, coconut oil. Now, the red bar on this slide, the red bar shows the amount of saturated fat. That's what we need to cut down. Coconut oil has 91% saturated fat. Entirely too much. Now, I know it's being sold for commercial purposes, but it's high in saturated fat. Butter is high in saturated fat, 68%. Palm oil is high, 51%. Lard, pig's fat, 43%. Cottonseed oil, 27%. None of these five should we be using in our cooking, because these are the ones that raise the blood cholesterol level. So if you're only supposed to have 13 grams of saturated fat, what foods are we talking about? Well, let's look at some of the good foods. The one that has the least amount of saturated fat is canola oil, only 7% saturated fat. Now, olive oil has 15%, but it's still a good fat. But we should keep the fat down from choosing the right oils and not the wrong oils. So the canola oil, if you have 2 tablespoons a day, we shouldn't get more than that, probably any day, 2 tablespoons would give us about 2 grams. If you have soybeans, that's low. Walnuts are low. Avocado is low. Tofu is good. Peanut butter, almond butter, both okay. Waffles, as we make them, are okay, and usually the way they're made, they're okay. Bread doesn't have much in it. Now, if you eat just those good foods with the good kind of fats that are low in saturated fat, you're doing okay. But you'll get your 13 grams without halfway even trying. But if you eat foods that are high in saturated fat, you'll go over that limit very easily. Now, what foods will take you up too high? The meat fats. are the problem. Meat is high in saturated fat. Now, there are a couple of them that are not high in saturated fat. Your chicken, your fish are not high in saturated fat. But chicken has as much cholesterol as beef. So cholesterol is the problem. Fish, it's the cholesterol problem, not a saturated fat problem. But in general, saturated fat would rule out most meats. Dairy fat is another problem. This is why the recommendation is not to use butter. That's a Heart Association recommendation. The recommendation is if you're over 2 years of age, don't use whole milk. Use non-fat or low-fat milk, not more than 1% fat in the milk. Whipping cream is terribly high. 1 cup of whole milk gives you 5 grams of saturated fat. So the dairy fat has to be ruled out. Now, another category of foods is chocolate. I have here a sheet on the chocolate, and it's amazing how much saturated fat there is in chocolate. Somebody gave me a candy bar once. It was a dark chocolate. They said it's healthful kind of chocolate, more good antioxidants in it, and they said it was good. This 100-gram chocolate bar had 35 grams of saturated fat. Now, the way the companies do this to advertise it and say it's low in saturated fat, they said 1 serving a day is only 1/7 of the bar. Well, that's ridiculous. Who eats only 1/7 of a candy bar per day? Okay? So this chocolate bar that was given to me had 35 grams of saturated fat. Hershey chocolate bar, 100 grams, usually has about 17 grams. What about hot chocolate? When you go to the restaurant and you order a hot chocolate with the cream, it's 5 grams. Now, if they made that with non-fat milk and no cream, it would be only 1 gram. That would be more reasonable. 1 cup of cocoa has 7 grams of saturated fat. So the chocolate is kind of ruled out. The meat fats are ruled out. The dairy fats are ruled out. One other thing that people have not thought much about is croissants. Croissants have a lot of saturated fat in them, so that's not good. Now, 1 egg doesn't have a lot of saturated fat. 1.6 gram perhaps, that's not a whole lot. But the problem with the egg is the cholesterol. 1 large egg yolk has 212 milligrams of cholesterol. So we still think we should not have much cholesterol in our diet. Now, the Dietary Advisory Group recently said cholesterol doesn't count. But most scientists, including the Heart Association people, say they think they made a mistake. They're looking only at heart disease, and even there they made a mistake. But we know that cholesterol in the diet affects the cancer rate. In other words, the ovary cancer risk in women, the colon cancer risk in everybody is increased with the amount of cholesterol in the diet. So we should keep our cholesterol intake low. What about pizza? Well, that's the dairy fat again, the cheese. We have more milk than we know what to do with in the United States. We have about half as many cows as we used to have, and we're producing much more milk than we used to with more cows. Now, the reason for this is the way they're feeding the animals and have them all cooped up. They're producing a lot of milk, giving them the hormones and all that sort of thing. So we don't know what to do with all the milk, so they're trying to put it into the cheese to store it. What to do with the cheese? Well, give it to the kids in the school lunch program. That's for the benefit of the farmers economically, not for the benefit of the health of the children. So saturated fat, we need to cut down no more than 6% of the calories. That means dairy fat, meat fat, chocolate, and even croissants. We should limit these kind of foods. This is why you need to get into a good cooking school, learn how to cook properly without all that saturated fat in your diet.
Hi, I'm Marcy Huronis with Balmar Health. To see more videos with Dr. Schaffenberg in it, you guys should subscribe to my YouTube channel. We talk about a ton of fun stuff like healthy vegan recipes, product reviews, health and beauty tips, and so much more, and I want all of you to be a part of it. Let me know in the comment section if there's anything else you guys would like to see. Thank you so much for watching today, and we will see you next time.